We have breaking news on Friday. Two of Notre Dame star football players have announced that they will be entering the NFL draft. And let's start with that news right there, Tyler. Kyle Hamilton, safety, and of course Kyren Williams, running back, for going their 2022 seasons at Notre Dame for the NFL draft. Not a surprise, right? I mean, especially with Kyle Hamilton, we expected him to be gone after his junior year really, since he was a freshman. So not a surprise with either of those guys entering the NFL draft, right?
No, not at all. You look at Kyle Hamilton, and he's a top 5 pick anywhere you look. Mel Kiper's had him as the number 2 overall prospect in the 2022 NFL draft for quite some time now. So with the knee injury that he sustained at the end of October and Notre Dame not being in the college football playoff, it's not surprising at all to see him sit out one last game. He sat out, the last month of the regular season. So what's one more game? I know it's a big game, and I wrote that in the breaking news article that we have at blueandgold.com. It's a big game for a lot of reasons, but it's just not worth risking top 5 money to go out there and play against Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. And then if you're Kyren Williams, you play one of the most physically demanding positions on the football field. He's taken his beatings this year. I know he's done a lot of really good things for Notre Dame in his junior season, but it's another one of those things where if you go out there and you sustain an injury that's going to affect your long-term future in this sport, it just wouldn't be worth it, considering that this is only the Fiesta Bowl and not the college football playoff. So these are Notre Dame's 2 best players, and that's going to be a hit for Notre Dame in that game. But like you said, Mike, it's not surprising to see them make this decision today.
Let's stick with that, and the impact of that. First, at the running back position, with Kyren Williams out, who does Notre Dame have behind him? Who are you expecting to be the leading carrier versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys in the Fiesta Bowl January 1st?
If you go off of what we saw the last month of the regular season or so, or really the last 2 months, ever since Chris Tyree sustained that turf toe injury against Virginia Tech in early October, I would say Logan Diggs, the true freshman, probably is in line to get the most carries against Oklahoma State. He's looked really good, in really a number 2 role behind Kyren Williams, because ever since Tyree went down with that injury, he kind of lost that standing in the running back room. So I would look for Diggs to get the bulk of the carries. But, I mean, Chris Tyree at this point, it's going to be close to, 3 months after, 2-3 months after he sustained that turf toe injury. So maybe this is kind of the springboard that he needs to go into his junior season as the number 1 running back. That's going to be an interesting conversation all offseason, and it's already an interesting conversation right now with Williams making this decision. The Diggs-Tyree dynamic. Obviously, Audric Estime could be in line to get some carries as well in a number 3 role in the Fiesta Bowl, but I would look at those 3 guys to kind of share reps. But if I had to pick one guy to get most of them, I would say Logan Diggs right now.
And Sebo Flemister's still around too. I mean, plenty of experience. We can get some carries as well.
Yeah, I think so. Based on what we've seen all season, I think Sebo's going to 20 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns in the Fiesta Bowl. Book it.
Really? Am I sensing sarcasm?
You are.
Okay, all right. And over at the safety position, I mean, like you said, Hamilton hasn't been playing for a little bit of time now. Who will play this? Those 2 starting safety spots. Anyone rotating in? Like, what should Irish fans expect in the back end of the defense?
Well, obviously you have those 2 seniors in Houston Griffith and DJ Brown, but I would look for Ramon Henderson to kind of play a bigger safety role. We've seen that the last few games of the regular season. I know Brian Kelly really liked him, but that doesn't really matter anymore because Brian Kelly's not there. But I really think Marcus Freeman, Chris O'Leary, Mike Mickens obviously really likes him too. Ramon Henderson was a cornerback before he made that midseason move to safety. So there's a lot of guys on this coaching staff that really like Ramon Henderson. So I would look for him to get a lot of reps back there on the back end. And it's going to be the same thing that we've seen pretty much, the last month and a half of the season, right? You mentioned that Kyle Hamilton hasn't been playing since October 23rd when he sustained that injury against USC in the first quarter of that game. So really, I think the bigger impact is obviously Kyren Williams saying that he's not going to play, because he's been, we did a point counterpoint article on blueandgold.com just a few days ago. And the question is, who's Notre Dame's MVP this season? our colleague Todd Burlage said Jack Cohn, and you can make that argument because quarterback's the most important position on the field. But Kyren Williams has scored at least one touchdown in 8 straight games, and in 4 of those games, he's had 2 touchdowns. So he's been not just a ball carrier for Notre Dame, but he's been the guy punching it into the end zone and leading Notre Dame to victory in a lot of these games. So Notre Dame's been without Kyle Hamilton. They know what that looks like. Notre Dame doesn't really know what it looks like without Kyren Williams.
I mean, Notre Dame is at about, depending on what Vegas site you're looking at, about 3-point favorite. I mean, how does losing Kyren Williams impact this game for Notre Dame? I mean, is it a lot different of an outlook? Kind of just what you were talking about. I mean, it might be closer to a pick 'em. I mean, Kyren Williams, that's a big loss. We weren't expecting Kyle Hamilton to play, but Kyren, we were on the fence about, not 100% sure. We definitely didn't think he was going to come back next year, but we thought he might play in this game.
Yeah, the term game wrecker is used for defensive players a lot just because they can come in and just totally wipe out what a team is trying to do offensively. But Kyren Williams is an offensive game wrecker. I mean, he's going to make plays like he did against North Carolina and take a ball 91 yards to the house when you least expect it. Or, he went 51 yards to the house against Purdue way back in the beginning of the season, and that was a close game. He can make plays that turn games on their heads, and Notre Dame's not going to have that. I talked up Logan Diggs. He's been phenomenal, over the last month, but we haven't seen what he looks like in a number one role. Kyren Williams is a number one running back. He's one of the best running backs in college football. Anytime you lose a player like that, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the point spread goes down to Notre Dame by 1 or maybe even a pick 'em because he's that influential of a player.
I mean, the thing about Kyren is he would just make all these spectacular, single plays. Of course, he had the longevity of a whole game where but he would always have those splash kind of plays. Am I crazy to say Logan Diggs is very similar to Kyren in the way he plays the running back position? They both block well. They can both catch the ball in the backfield. They're very multi-purpose running backs. So, yeah, losing Kyren stings, but you have your speed back in Tyree and Diggs. I mean, he's a special player too, and he's just a freshman.
I think it's going to be interesting because you're going to get a look at what this running back room is going to be, 8 months from now when fall camp is starting, 9 months from now, whenever that is. Tyree, Diggs, Estime, those are your 3 guys. I know Jadarian Price is coming in, and he's probably going to look a lot like, Diggs and Estime did at the beginning of this year. If you go back at the beginning of this year, remember when the offensive line was really struggling, those guys weren't getting any carries at all. So the fact that Estime and Diggs have come along like they have in the last month of the season is a really good sign for 2022. And I think whatever happens in this bowl game is going to be a predictor of what's going to happen in 2022 as well, because these are your core guys, and they're going to get a little taste of what next year is going to be like in this Fiesta Bowl.
So that's the news, guys. Kyle Hamilton, Kyren Williams declaring for the NFL draft and will not be playing in the Fiesta Bowl January 1. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video, and we will catch you guys next time.